Texas football bounced back with a win this weekend after a 1-point loss to Alabama the week prior, defeating UTSA 40-21. Number 20, Texas soccer, avoided a loss against UCF, drawing the game 2-2 with a last-minute goal. NFL Week 2 left us with much to discuss and unpack. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening, and welcome to College Press Box. I'm your host, Ethan Ferguson, and she's Kylie Rodriguez. We've got a great show for you today. We will now take a look at highlights from the Texas UTSA game this past Saturday. UTSA was the first team on the board and held the Horns scoreless throughout the first quarter. At the top of the second, however, it was Roschon Johnson selling out the defense and putting the Horns up 7-3. Not much later in the quarter, Roadrunner running back Brendan Brady scores to put UTSA up 10-7. Taking advantage of their momentum, the Roadrunners call an onside kick and succeed recovering the football. The following possession, a double pass from Frank Harris to Brendan Brady ends in a touchdown to Zahari Franklin. Roadrunners are up 17-7. Wanting to have a trick play of their own, Roschon Johnson hurdles a Roadrunners defender, bringing the Longhorns within scoring range. It's Bijan Robinson who finishes the job. After making a defensive stop, this pass from Hudson Card to Bijan Robinson puts the Horns in Roadrunner territory. As he breaks a tackle, moves forward, and keeps going. Although Texas couldn't put it in the end zone, it's Bert Ogburn who kicks it through the uprights to tie the game going into the half. After a stop at the top of the half, Bijan Robinson breaks free for a 78-yard touchdown to put the Horns up in front. 24-17. Trying their best to get back in the game, Harris is picked off by Jahai Barron, who takes it to the house. The Texas defense continued to do their thing, and so did Bijan Robinson, who on this play finds a gap and scores his third touchdown of the night. Robinson would end up with 183 rush yards and 3 touchdowns on the day. Coach Sark told us that he wanted his team not to get fragmented and that he wanted adversity. And as you can see, Texas beat the UTSA Roadrunners 41-20. The Longhorns are now 2-1 on the season, going into Lubbock next weekend to start conference play against the Red Raiders.
This past weekend, our very own Ethan Ferguson covered the game. Here's what he had to say.
Despite losing last week's bout against the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Texas Longhorns were able to bounce back efficiently this week against UTSA, winning tonight's game 41-20. Despite being tied 17-17 at half, the Texas Longhorns came out in the second with a new type of ferocity. Running back Bijan Robinson did his thing, scoring 3 touchdowns. Hudson Card, despite having an injured ankle, was able to produce and be efficient for his team. Defensively, Jahai Barron had a pick 6 and took it to the house. Coming up next week against Texas Tech, the Longhorns will travel to Lubbock for their first in-conference game. For TSTV Sports, I'm Ethan Ferguson.
Now I'm lucky to be joined by our football analysts, Gonsoulin and Adam Ogburn. Thank you for joining us. Texas was looking to get some momentum heading into conference play in this game, and they did just that with an impressive second half where they outscored the Roadrunners 24-3. A lot of the talk heading into this game was about the quarterback position. What do you think? What do you make of Hudson Card's performance in this game?
Yeah, for sure. I think, heading in the game, it was going to be the question, was it going to be Hudson Card or was it going to be Charles Wright? But I think Card, he really showed up on Saturday. His pocket presence has definitely improved since last year. I loved his 32-yard scramble in the fourth quarter, especially considering, he's doing that on a gippy ankle. Last year, he was guilty of holding onto the ball too long in the pocket, so it's really good to see him exercise that dual threat ability on Saturday. And I also think, as Coach Sarkisian, he really game planned well for Card. There was a good mix of kind of screen routes and crossing routes, which played to Card's ability better than the deep ball. We saw him complete his lone touchdown of the night on a dump-off pass to Roschon Johnson, as well as hitting Jordan Whittington on a nice intermediate crossing route and Bijan Robinson on a nice dump-off. So I think Card really took care of the ball well and kept out of harm's way against a hungry UTSA team. I think if Card's going to be the guy against Texas Tech, Sarkisian, he's going to need to have another game plan of kind of those short and intermediate routes combined with Roschon Johnson operating the offense a little bit out of the Wildcat formation. After all, Texas and Card executed a similar game plan to perfection on Saturday. Card throwing for just 161 yards on 15 completions, and there's also a lot of pressure off his shoulders when you look at the skill position guys the Longhorns have, the Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Roschon Johnson. I think Card proved on Saturday that he can execute with those guys, and Sarkisian can set him up for success with the game plan.
Now, while the Horns started the game a little slow and trailed 17-7 at one point, they really had a burst as they went on for 34-3. What were some of the major factors that allowed the Texans to play their better abilities and run away with this game?
Well, Kylie, Hudson Card did get banged up a little bit with the Alabama game. They entered into this one with like a limp ankle. The Longhorns needed to rely on the ground game because of that, and that's exactly what they did. It's no surprise to me that Bijan Robinson was able to do his thing. It became his show midway through the second quarter when he scored his first touchdown. He racked up 183 yards off 20 carries the entire night and scored 2 more touchdowns, one for 41 yards and another for 73. His ability to read the line of scrimmage and hit the right hole was beautiful and looked just as perfect as to how any of those plays could have possibly been drawn up. Well, let's not forget about Texas's other go-to running back, Roschon Johnson. We saw him catching rollout passes from Card in the first half, with one of those receptions resulting in the first touchdown of the night. A former high school QB turned halfback, he was able to work the Wildcat formation with Bijan right behind him in the backfield. This forced UTSA to think twice as to where the ball would be going. We even saw a little hurdle action from Roschon. He finished the night with 81 yards on 11 carries, but we may as well give credit also to the defense. They really stepped up near the end of the third quarter with Jahdae Barron's 44-yard pick six, being like a really momentum shifter for Texas. Meanwhile, Jalen Ford had 15 total tackles and Marvion Overshown with 10. Bert Ogburn also delivered every time he was called up. His 44-yarder at the end of the first half also knocked off that last bit of edge that UTSA had heading into halftime. It was an all-out great performance from every unit of the team that helped Texas secure this outright win.
Steve Sarkisian had said multiple times that the goal for this team is to be playing at the AT&T Stadium. Can you each give one key for this team in conference play that will be crucial for them in this if they want to achieve this goal?
Yeah, for sure. I think the Texas offense has definitely looked good out of the gate, but I think there are a lot of questions about that offensive line coming into this season. And the pass protections looked really good. I think we've seen those strides from last offseason. They've only given up 6 total sacks in their first 3 games, including none against UTSA on Saturday. They gave Quinn Ewers in the first couple games, now Hudson Card a cleaner pocket to operate from, allowing guys like Xavier Worthy to get open downfield on those deeper routes. However, I'm a little bit concerned about their run blocking in the trenches. Against UL Monroe, a team the Longhorns should dominate, they rushed for just 134 yards on 29 carries. And against Alabama, there was barely any room to run as they finished with just 79 yards on 33 carries. That's only 2.4 yards per carry. Against UTSA, though, Texas finally had some more joy with 298 rushing yards, but there were moments where the line failed to have much of a presence in the trenches. On that very first drive, Texas was forced to go for it on 4th down after their offense failed to convert a 3rd and 2 on a handoff to Bijan Robinson. Then later, into the third quarter, Robinson was blown up in the backfield for a 3-yard loss on 3rd and 1. Texas eventually wore the road runners out, but it's those short yardage situations that have me a bit concerned heading into conference play, especially when they'll be taking on better opposition than the road runners defense in the Big 12.
Robert?
I want to add to that and talk a little bit about the pass defense. I know they run different schemes depending on who they play, but they need to enter into the Big 12 competition at the level that they were playing at against Alabama, not UTSA. Too many times throughout the game did we see Frank Harris connect with his receivers on 3rd downs. They gave up 26 receptions and 269 passing yards on 40 attempts. Now, overall, the defense has been playing great so far this season with players like DeMarvion Overshown, Anthony Cook, and Jalen Ford leading the front. But the Big 12 is notoriously known for their offenses. For their upcoming games, they'll want to find ways to eliminate open field receptions in the flats and also come up strong when quarterbacks are throwing the deep ball. The good thing is this defense has remained healthy so far. If they can continue to avoid injuries and really focus on the air attack, quarterbacks like JT Daniels and Dylan Gabriel shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Well, thank you guys. Now we go back to Ethan at the desk.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Robert and Adam. Next, we will have TJ Krilowicz to talk about Texas women's soccer non-conference against UCF and their game plan for Big 12 play starting later this week. All this and more when we return on College Press Box.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Texas women's soccer has been on a roll, with their record being 6-1-2. We will now go to TJ Krilowicz, who will break down the past week in Texas women's soccer.
I'd now like to welcome in our women's soccer analyst, TJ Krilowicz. TJ, thanks for joining us tonight. The Texas women's soccer team end their non-conference schedule with a 2-2 tie to UCF. What went good for the Longhorns in this game?
Well, Texas really showed some fight here versus a very desperate UCF team who has not won in 3 games. UCF scored to take the lead 2-1 in the 66th minute, but the Longhorns never waved the white flag. 5 minutes after the UCF goal, Longhorn goalie Savannah Madden showed amazing grit, coming up with 2 saves from point-blank range, keeping the Longhorns within reach. And later on, sophomore forward Trinity Byers showed her incredible speed, getting behind the defense for the tie, to make it 8 goals for her on the season, which leads the team. Texas held the fort down after that for the rest of the game to keep it a tie. And although I bet the Longhorns wanted to end the non-conference schedule with a W, you have to love the fight that they came out with and the opportunities that the Texas offense set up this game.
You mentioned her earlier, goalie Savannah Madden. She tied her season high in stops with 6 against UCF. How important is her role on this team moving forward this season?
Well, she's been nothing short of amazing for the team this year. She was named to the 2021 All-Big 12 Conference second team last year, and you can tell that she's not lost a pep in her step at all. Out of the 9 games the Longhorns have played, no team has scored more than 2 goals on Madden, not even at the time #1 ranked Tar Heels. She's a brick wall that has kept the team in games where the offense can't get much going, like the North Carolina game, where she got 6 saves and held the fort down until the 57th minute, and as well as the UCF game on Sunday, where she had many stops to give the Longhorns a chance. I'd not be surprised if the Longhorns can make a huge run in the Big 12 Conference because of her play.
Well, with the Longhorns starting their Big 12 Conference schedule this Thursday at TCU, what teams within the conference do you think are going to give Texas a run for their money this year?
Well, playing the Horned Frogs is going to be a great test to start off the season. TCU was able to win the Big 12 championship last year, and they still have a great squad intact. Other than the Horned Frogs, it's hard to come up with many teams that can give the Longhorns a run for their money. It is a lot like last year. Texas was the only one that challenged TCU for that top spot in the conference, and I can see that repeating this year. Possibly Baylor can make some noise, but they've struggled to start the year off. But TCU is definitely the team to beat. They dominated last year, and it's going to take Savannah Madden and the defense to perform like they have been to dethrone the Frogs.
Well, I just have one more question for you, TJ. How old are you today?
I'm 19 today.
Me and everyone here at the TSTV crew would like to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, TJ. When we return, we will recap this past weekend in the NFL. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back into College Press Box. We now go to Kylie, who is with NFL analyst Tyler Moss to break down this past weekend in the NFL.
I'd like to welcome in our NFL analyst, Tyler Moss. Thank you for joining us. Well, Tyler, for the second week in a row, we had a handful of games come down to the wire. Take us through some of them.
Well, Sunday definitely featured some nail biters, so let's set the scene. Up 30-17 with 1:55 to go. Surely the Browns don't lose this game, right? Well, nobody told Joe Flacco. He'd complete a 66-yard pass to Corey Davis, the Jets would get an onside kick, and with the short field, Flacco would get a 15-yard touchdown pass to the rookie Garrett Wilson to take the lead. The Jets defense would seal the game with an interception, earning them a win on the road. One blowed lead on Sunday I could believe, but the Dolphins, coming back after going into the fourth quarter down 35-14, was outrageous. The Dolphins had 4 consecutive touchdown drives in the fourth, with the last one taking the lead with 14 seconds left. Tua finished the game with 6 touchdowns and over 450 yards passing, with Hill getting 190 yards and a pair of touchdowns, and Waddle getting 171 yards and another pair of TDs. The Cardinals and the Raiders were both looking to bounce back after week one losses, and man, did they show it. The Cardinals overcame a 20-0 halftime deficit with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion with 8:13 left in the fourth, and another scoring conversion as time expired. Kyler Murray displayed his elusiveness and scrambling ability late in this game, and he gave the Cardinals a chance. They got stopped and downs to start overtime, but the Raiders' Hunter Renfrow put the ball on the ground in their drive, and the Cardinals capped the game off with a scoop and score. The Cardinals got a much-needed win, and the Raiders cannot be happy to have a 0-2 start in their tough division. And of course, the Cowboys and the Bengals had themselves a scrap in Dallas Sunday. Cooper Rush made his second career start and his second career game-winning drive. Dallas came out hot with their first two drives going for touchdowns, but the Bengals fought their way back into this game with a touchdown and 2-point conversion just under 4 minutes to go. But Dallas took the ball from their own 35 with 57 seconds left, and Rush had 3 completions to get them into position for a 50-yard game-winning field goal.
Now, Tyler, the Bengals start with 2 losses on the year, which was definitely not what they wanted to see following their Super Bowl run. What are some outlooks for the team without wins at this point?
Well, the Bengals cannot be happy with their performance following last season, and Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times throughout these 2 games, and pass protection was something they wanted to focus on much more this season. It's disheartening to see that one of their main points of improvement is arguably the worst part of their gameplay. The team's got heart, and they've shown this by fighting uphill battles and losing in overtime because of a couple special team errors and losing on a field goal at the end of regulation. It's going to test their resilience, but with the game against the Jets next week, as long as Mike White isn't playing, if the Bengals can get a victory, look for them to gain some momentum. Now the Panthers are in a bit of a similar situation. Losing by 2 points in week 1 and 3 this week shows that this team has the potential to win, but they haven't quite reached it yet. Baker Mayfield's fresh start in Carolina has looked average at best. The difference is this is not a team coming back from a Super Bowl appearance. This is a team with a new QB and a head coach on the hot seat. They have to find a way to deal with the pressure or they will falter. They play the Saints in Carolina, and this is going to decide their season, really. And so now we've got a team who should be concerned but can make some waves, a team that looks like a coin flip, and let's talk about a bleak outlook. The Colts, who have the best record of these 3 actually. This team started their season with 2 divisional games, which has not gone well for them. And for the team that was expected to have a chance at winning their division by barely missing the playoffs last year and adding Matt Ryan in the offseason, they've been terrible. A tie is not as bad as a loss, but for a team in their position, it definitely doesn't feel as good as a win. And then to get shut out by the Jags, who finished last place in back-to-back seasons, Ryan has thrown 4 picks compared to his 1 touchdown, and 3 of them coming on Sunday. They only handed the ball off to the best player, Jonathan Taylor, 9 times, who's a big contributor to their offense. It seems the Colts have yet to find a good quarterback since the departure of Andrew Luck, and Matt Ryan needs to step up to turn this team around. It's his 15th season in the league, and if his poor play continues, don't be surprised if the Colts explore the option of starting Nick Foles or the rookie from Texas, Sam Ehlinger.
And with that, and with week 2 in the books, what matchups should we be looking for next week?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Bills and the Dolphins. It's going to be an offensive showdown with Josh Allen and the company heading to Miami to take on Tua Tagovailoa. The Bills' defense is going to be tested by the wide receiver duo Hill and Waddle, so we'll see who comes out on top in the AFC East. The Rams and the Cardinals both bounced back after disappointing losses in Week 1, and they face each other in Arizona on Sunday afternoon. Can Kyler Murray repeat his winning performance, or will Matthew Stafford be able to get the Rams back on track for a repeat run? And Monday night, the Cowboys go to New York to face the Giants under the direction of their new head coach, Brian Daboll. It'll be all eyes on Cooper Rush and Daniel Jones, both of which have got a good backfield to support them. All this and more coming up in Week 3.
Well, thanks, Tyler. All right, back to you at the desk, Ethan.
Thank you for your wonderful insight, Tyler. When we return, we recap last week in Texas sports. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. The Texas volleyball team showed their dominance over High Point by winning all 3 sets. This one helped the Longhorns finish non-conference play strong.
For the second time this season, Texas volleyball Zoe Fleck was named Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week. The senior libero leads the #1 Longhorns this season with an outstanding 133 digs.
Texas Athletics Hall of Honor Class of 2022 was recognized on Friday night. The was recognized, including Kevin Durant and Sam Acho and B.G. Bedford.
The annual Golden Goggle Awards are back in session, and this year, 3 Longhorns received nominations. Carson Foster earned 4 nominations, one of which includes Breakout Performer of the Year, Drew Kibler for Relay Performance of the Year, and Legend of the Game Eddie Reese for Coach of the Year. Fan voting is now open through Friday, September 30th.
Taking a look at this week in Longhorn sports, on Wednesday, volleyball goes up against Kansas at 8 p.m. on ESPNU. On Thursday, soccer versus TCU at 7 p.m. On Saturday, the Longhorn football travels to face Texas Tech at 2:30 on ESPN. And also on Saturday, volleyball versus Oklahoma at 7 p.m. on Longhorn Network. And on Sunday, soccer versus Texas Tech at 1 p.m.
That'll wrap things up for this week's episode of College Press Box. Make sure to tune in to our other shows this week, including College Crossfire on Wednesday and Want to Know Sports on Friday. On behalf of all the crew here at TSTV, I'm Ethan Ferguson, she's Kylie Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us, and have a good night.